Part 2, Chapter 11 of Sons and Lovers is called The Test on Miriam. Spring finds Paul with the same fear of physical contact with Miriam and the continued realization that they belong to each other. Paul sees other men who are also virgins, the sons of mothers who were abused by their husbands and willing to sacrifice their own needs rather than hurt a woman like their mother. One evening, Paul tries to explain his conflicted feelings to Miriam, and they kiss for the first time. Paul holds her, though she confesses she's afraid to be more physical. One day, after picking cherries, Paul takes Miriam among the trees, and she decides to relinquish herself to him, feeling the horror of her sacrifice. Miriam's grandmother becomes sick and is taken to Derbe. Miriam remains in her grandmother's cottage, and she and Paul spend the day together, cooking dinner and going to the bedroom. Paul stays with her for a week and wore her out with his passion. Miriam's mother always told her that sex is always dreadful, but you have to bear it. But now she sees that it is the high watermark of living and wants to have children. Paul asks her to marry him, but she says, not yet, they're too young. Paul tells his mother he will not be going to Miriam so often. The sense of love for her that filled him never came again. Now he feels a sense of sadness and failure. During this same period, Paul does sketches of Clara's arms and hands at work, and Miriam sees the drawings. Paul's annoyed. He starts seeing more of Clara and tells his mother he's going to end it with Miriam. On a walk with Miriam, he tells her they should break it off. Miriam admits she's hated her love for him, and she thinks Paul wants something else. Paul feels that she has deceived him, despising him when he thought she worshipped him. Paul sacrifices his own sexual needs to avoid hurting Miriam, choosing celibacy as a means of protecting her. Miriam sees sex as a form of religious sacrifice. Paul notes that her soul had stood apart in horror as she lay there. Their first sexual encounter is outdoors, among the pine trees, fitting because nature is such a strong part of who they are. It starts to rain, which may be symbolic of washing away their sin. Miriam sees sex in a religious way, associating it with sacrifice and spiritual thoughts rather than with physical pleasure.